no 아무것도 모르면서 그래도 원해 more 전혀 신경 안 써 오히려 Like it but we so nasty 아무것도 필요 없이 모르면 저기 멀리서 So watch us right 빠짐없이 보여줄게 내가 어떤 애를 믿게 모든 내 것처럼 갖고 놀래 오늘 밤 분위기가 딱 좋아 시간이
The number one secret to your metabolism is, what is metabolism? All right. We are talking about metabolism today, but a very small piece of it. So metabolism, wow, it's a big word and we hear it a lot, but it's the process by which your body converts food and drink into energy that supports your bodily functions such as breathing. Ooh, we need to breathe, digestion, circulation, and cell repair. So that's what metabolism is. And we are going to talk about this little piece called AMPK and how it relates to aging. All right. So we're going to tell you about what AMPK is and what foods will impair AMPK and what foods will boost AMPK. All right. So this is the Daily Energy Bite, and we are here to help you live the health and life of your dreams by our little tidbits that we give you each day. And we're here every day, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today is our first day, I guess, with the clock springing ahead in North America. So we're 1 hour earlier, I guess, 1 hour later if you're in another time zone like Europe or whatever. But here we are, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So what's AMPK? So it actually flips the switch from fat storing to fat burning. It helps to restore our energy balance, and it is the fat controller. All right. And there's this thing called autophagy, which is actually a housekeeping process that actually cleans up the surplus and mismatched, I guess, debris in the cells and damaged cell debris. So AMPK is known to be pro longevity. So we go from AMPK to setting off the autophagy process, and that's going to give us a cellular reset as it cleans up the cells. So let's look a little bit more at what AMPK is. All right. So AMPK, what is it? That's a nice little short acronym. It's short for AMP activated protein kinase. All right. So if you're a biologist or you're in that field, you probably know a little bit about that or what that's all about. And AMP is actually adenosine monophosphate. And you may have heard of ATP. I'm not going to talk about that, but it's adenosine triphosphate. So they're kind of all linked together. And so if let's look at the cell as and the energy as being a cell being a furnace here. So we have a furnace here that's going in our cell. And the AMPK is actually you can think of it as thermostat. And so when the temperature goes down and we're short on energy, the AMPK kicks into action and says, hey, we need more energy. So we're going to burn glucose and fat. And so it's going to stoke the fat and the glucose into the fire. And so into our furnace, going to add that in, and we're going to burn our glucose and fat stores. And then the opposite is when we're, if we're at the temperature we're supposed to be at, and we've got the energy stores are where we want them, or maybe that we've got too much energy, then it's going to look at storing it as fat, and that's kind of the opposite side. So, and when everything is good, everything is on par, the furnace is just humming along. All right, so that's kind of a little, I guess, way to think of what AMPK is. All right. So hopefully that helps for you to understand a little bit about what AMPK is. All right. So now we get to aging. And guess what? As we age, our levels of AMPK drop. So, they talk about the metabolism slows down as you get older. Well, I guess when you think of the AMPK is dropping as you age, that makes sense. And so, as people age, they need to eat less, and if they continue to eat the same amount, well, then they start gaining weight. So AMPK, though, it can be activated. And one of the ways you can activate it is through long-term food restriction. So that means you're basically starving yourself. So that will help give you a longevity boost. But on the other side, at some point, you're going to run out of fuel if you keep burning your fuel and you keep restricting your food. So I'm not sure about that. So then the question is, how do we naturally boost our AMPK without starving ourselves to death? And if we can boost the AMPK, we can slow down the aging process. Yay! And the other thing about the AMPK activation, it's not just activating the furnace that's there to work. It's actually it can be adding on more furnaces. So that's an interesting part. It can actually add more furnaces to more to your cell. And so the way that you can activate it is when there's a fuel shortage through starving. Another way to activate it is through exercise. But we're going to look at food. So that's about AMPK and how it relates to aging. But the good news is we do have some way to slow down the fact that the AMPK levels drop as we get older, so that will impact your metabolism. All right. So, of course, there are foods that impair the AMPK. The first one is saturated fats that come in the form of palmitic acid. Okay, so it's the palmitic acid is really what is impairing the AMPK production activation, and that is found in the fats of meat and dairy. So this is where we're going to find our palmitic acid. And palmitic acid is related to metabolic disease or linked to metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, and inflammation, which we talked about inflammation last week. So if we're impairing our AMPK, we're actually fueling our fire to increase the amount of inflammation that we have in our system. And guess what? As we talked last week on the inflammation session of aging, inflammation is something that increases as we age. So this is just another way to add fuel to the fire. Imagine that. All right. So we're going to impair our AMPK with palmitic acid, which comes from meat and dairy fats. Okay. Now, there are foods that boost the AMPK levels. And believe it or not, this one, probably not such a good idea, but one of the ones is nicotine. And so nicotine actually, that's not exactly a great one because, if you can boost your AMPK, but on the other hand, nicotine is most, in cigarettes and smoking. And I am not advocating at all for somebody to smoke. But I do know people. So, in my lifetime, I have known people who actually started smoking because they wanted to lose weight. And so that would make sense that they lost the weight because they were boosting their AMPK, and they've activated these stores to increase their metabolism. Now, on the other side, when people stop smoking, they tend to gain weight. And I guess I've always associated that with people are nibbling more. And so maybe, that's maybe a bit, but also when they stop the smoking and they are no longer putting nicotine into their body, then they are turning off that AMPK activation or slowing it down. So that would slow down the metabolism and increase the weight if that's the case. Now, I remember I was stupid at one time in my life. I'll say this. I'm not proud of this moment, but I actually thought for a moment about smoking so I could lose weight. But I know that, when you're trying to lose weight, there is no such thing as a quick fix. And also, one of the other I guess there's some medicines and stuff that are AMPK activating, and it really is around metformin. And now there's all this hype about Ozempic and how it is helping people to lose weight. But I really, I do not advocate any of that at all. I believe that we need to get down to basics. It's all about the food that we're putting into our bodies, the exercise, and how we're treating ourselves. And there's no quick fix. You need to do the work. I haven't, I had an aunt, she's passed away now, but I had an aunt who, when all of the time that I knew her, had health issues all of the time. She was never healthy. And then she decided to change her diet and eat healthier. She was eating the right foods, eating more vegetables, and really cleaned up her lifestyle, and she lost weight. She was able to get off of her diabetic medicines, and she had more energy than I've ever seen her have in her life. But then she started looking for the quick fix, and she was looking for supplements or anything that would help her to be healthy without having to do the work of eating the right foods. And that didn't work for her. Unfortunately, it put her back into a tailspin of bad health. Her diabetes came back. She ended up with dementia and all sorts of things, which was really unfortunate. And she was just such a pleasure in that small window of time where she was using food as medicine to heal her body. So I'm definitely advocate for using food as medicine and not going for the quick fix, because it's a double-edged sword. There's all sorts of health risks that you take when you're getting onto medications and trying to do the shortcut, because the shortcuts only work for a certain amount of time, and they do come with risks. All right, enough about that. I'm off of my soapbox now. Foods that boost AMPK besides nicotine, because we're going to throw that one right out. We are not going to go to smoking to boost our AMPK. Please do not do that. There are barberries, which are Middle Eastern, and you can find them in Middle Eastern stores, and you know they would be dried. Black cumin, hibiscus and lemon verbena verbena tea as well, and I do not think I've ever had that, but that's one. Vinegar as well, and fiber rich foods. All right, so we talked about vinegar, having vinegar in our section we did on weight maintenance and weight loss. And so having 1 to 2 teaspoons of vinegar at your meals or before your meals will help. So it will help boost your AMPK, which will increase your fat burning, increase your metabolism and fat burning. Now, the fiber rich foods actually does the same thing. So when we eat fiber rich foods, so that would be things like legumes and grains. What happens is that fuels our gut bacteria. It's the food for the gut bacteria. That's the prebiotics, the fiber rich foods. And it when the bacteria are eating the fiber rich foods, they are creating a fermentation cycle, and the result of that is that the bacteria are producing acetic acid, which is vinegar. So you can get your vinegar from taking it in through your mouth, and don't put it into a liquid like a water or something, or on your food. You know, you can add it in your, you know, if you have a salad, which is a very good thing to do, make sure you've got vinegar in your dressing, and maybe you can just make sure you add a teaspoon or two on yours to make sure you get enough. But you can also buy the fiber rich foods, which, you know, you get fiber in your legumes and whole grains, but all fruits and vegetables have fiber. There is no fiber in animal products, I guess, foods. So we're going to get our fiber, and then we're going to produce acetic acid in our digestive process, which is also helping to boost our AMPK. So we do have ways that we can boost our AMPK and thus slow down that aging process when it relates to our metabolism and that. So this is kind of the, we've talked about our metabolism, which is our process for converting food and drink into energy that supports our bodily, I guess, functions, so we can breathe, digest, have circulation, do cellular repair, all those things. AMPK is a big part of that. It's the thermostat on our furnace that allows us to determine whether we need to burn fat or store fat. So it's really important in that whole metabolism process. It's not the only piece, but it is important. And there are foods that impair our dairy and animal fat, and there's foods that boost it related to high fiber foods, vinegar, which is plant foods, vinegar, um, um, the berries, barberries, and the hibiscus and lemon verbena tea. So there's ways that we can do it. So we've talked about what it is, what impairs it, and what foods will boost it. So if you have any questions or any comments, be sure to DM me or send me an email. Would love to hear from you. We will be back with more on aging tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh, Eastern Daylight Time. Woo, it's daylight time now. I forgot, even though I said it. And so we'll see you tomorrow. Be sure to follow us for more great information on aging and other topics on nutrition. Bye for now.